Welcome back to a Celtic State of Mind. I'm Paul John Dykes, and today I will be joined by Sean Connolly at halftime, and at full time he'll be dialing in all the way from Australia to talk about St Mirren versus Celtic. Lots to discuss, as there has been all week, and indeed for the last few weeks on a Celtic State of Mind. We are in the depths, really, at the hind end of a transfer window that has so far been what I'm pretty sure could be described as problematic, underwhelming. What's your take on it? There is no Matt O'Reilly in the starting 11. Let's dive right into that starting 11 and we'll have a wee chat about that to begin with. Here we go. It's great to see the big man Ida starting today. It really is. But let's run through the entire team and let us know your thoughts in the comments section. As always, Casper Schmeichel in goals with Alistair Johnston at right back and Greg Taylor at left back, the central defensive partnership. You've guessed it, it's Cameron Carter-Vickers and Liam Scales. The midfield three, O'Reilly is missing. It's Callum McGregor, Paulo Bernardo and Rio Hatate. And up top, we have James A. Forrest, Dyson Maeda and Adam Ida. On the bench drops Kuhn and Kyogo, obviously coming back from that injury that he had that kept him out of the starting 11 last week. Kuhn maybe surprisingly drops to the bench. He has been on good form this season, but there is a suggestion that he may have picked up an injury. Also on the bench, we have the substitute goalkeeper, Sine Salo. We have Palmer, Yang, Holm, Ralston, Welsh, and Young Turley. Great to see him still on the bench. Let us know your thoughts on this. We're going to run through the team in a wee bit more detail, but it looks like a rather weak bench. Would you agree? I know Kyogo's on there and Kuhn's on there. That apart, that looks like a weak bench. I think that speaks volumes for the type of transfer window that we are currently, I'm not going to say enjoying, I'm going to say suffering. You look at the midfield, Matt O'Reilly is missing. And I've said all along that we are going to be playing Paulo Bernardo as a starting 11 player if Matt O'Reilly leaves. That's exactly what has happened. I don't think Bernardo is a replacement. I don't think he's the same type of player, but we'll go over that as well. And yes, a weaker than last season, says Ryan Armstrong. Well, I could keep up that starting 11 for the entire stream, or indeed, I could show you my mug again. Sorry, I'm going to go for the latter. Here we go. We're going to be talking a wee bit more in depth about that team. We're also going to be looking at the big talking points in Celtic this week, some head-to-heads as well, because I've said before on Acsom, I think Robinson does a great job at St Mirren. Is he going to give us some trouble today? He often does, particularly in Paisley. And I think we're going there after a week of real disappointment. Let's be honest. We knew there was a inevitability about Matt O'Reilly leaving Celtic. We get it. I think it's become normalised. We know often when a player starts to really show his worth, and in particular on a European stage, which Matt has done, then we start to get concerned about where next for a player like Matt O'Reilly. He didn't hide it when he came to the football club. He wanted to play at the highest level he possibly can. I was watching back the initial press conference that we were in when he signed for the football club, and I shared a clip on the social media where he basically maps out what his plan is in coming to Celtic, and he's fulfilled that plan. He seems to be one of those footballers who has a real focus on their career. They know their next three steps, never mind their next step. I don't think anything they do is for instant financial gain. I think that coming to Celtic was part of his plan. And he stuck to his part of the bargain, didn't he? Let's be honest. I mean, look at these performances. I think when he first came in, we were raving about Matt O'Reilly because if you were like me, you were probably looking at where he had come from in relation to MK Dons. And you thought to yourself, is he going to step up? A lot of people don't think Scottish football is a step up from the third tier in England. But I do believe that coming to a club like Celtic is a massive step up. And there are expectations that he would never have expected in any other part of his previous career. None of the clubs he had been at had the same kind of standards and expectations as Celtic, whereby every single game is a must-win domestically and in Europe. We don't often get the wins in Europe, but there is an expectation that that is the standard. He came in and I think he adapted very, very quickly, like a duck to water. And his performances for me were excellent in that first half season under Ange Postecoglou, where every player that came to the football club really had to make an impression, and Matt O'Reilly certainly did that. I remember when he signed, he was something of an afterthought because we had the triple-headed signing of the Japanese three coming in. It was Ideguchi, Hatate and Maeda, and we were also at that press conference, and that was done early. The business was done early, and then Matt O'Reilly came a wee bit later in the transfer window. We had been speaking to Riley McGree at the time. He was the first choice, wasn't he? And he chose Middlesbrough over Celtic. And I don't think we regret that one iota. Matt O'Reilly was taken instantly to the Celtic supporters' hearts. And it was really in his third season that he came into his own. I remember when Brendan Rodgers took over at Celtic saying that if he can add goals to Matt O'Reilly's game, then we're going to have a real player on our hands, and that's indeed what happened last season. Matt O'Reilly, 19 goals, 18 assists, one of the top performing attacking midfield players in Europe. And because of that, we expected bids, and bids we got. In January, fighting off Atletico Madrid, and then this summer, Brighton and others were interested. And it looks as though, due to today's absence in the starting 11 and also some images that have started to circulate around the WhatsApp groups and social media, Matt O'Reilly is currently down south finalising that deal. We wish him well. I don't think any Celtic fan would wish him otherwise. Just the way he's conducted himself right up until the last kick of the ball, the contribution that he made to a brilliant 3 seasons, a double, a treble, and a double, and he leaves as a winner, and he's away down south to test himself at a higher level. I'm not going to say at a better club or a more successful club, because Brighton are not that, but he will be playing consistently at a higher level down south. And I think that every single time he's been faced with a challenge at Celtic, that he has risen to that challenge. Just playing for Celtic was the first one. Then you're asking yourself, can he perform in the big games against the likes of Rangers? And he answered that question very quickly. And then the suggestion was, but can he do it in Europe? And he did. He then stepped up to the international stage, under 21, and then full international. And every step of the way, every challenge that he faced, he overcame it. And I think he'll do the same down south. Would not surprise me that within the next 3 years, there's a bigger move for him down south. We wish him well. But what does it mean for Celtic? Well, it means that we are missing what could only be described as a talisman in the midfield. He really is. And what he's done for Celtic over the last few years is he's provided goal contributions, either scoring them or setting them up, the old class assist. He's been brilliant at that. Who steps into his boots? Well, today it's Paulo Bernardo. And I've been saying over the last wee while, I don't think we can, not that we wouldn't want to, we cannot sign a replacement, a direct like-for-like replacement for Matt O'Reilly. What we can do is sign a player similar in style to Matt O'Reilly. And I don't think that's what Paulo Bernardo is. If you look at the press conference that Bernardo gave when he came back to the football club, we were there and we've been sharing some of the clips. He certainly thinks he's an attacking midfield player. We've seen some snippets of that last season. And I think that if you were to look at Matt O'Reilly's final season under Ange Postecoglou and the transformation that we experienced last season under Brendan Rodgers, what we've seen was a guy who didn't have the same kind of level of goal contributions in Ange's last season, really coming into his own and having a breakout season last campaign. Can Bernardo do that? We'll just need to wait and see. I mean, he showed us snippets of it last season. There was what can often be described as a purple patch, where he was getting in amongst the goals, and the pick of the bunch was obviously the Derby goal against Rangers. It was a tremendous strike. He went through that period, but then he lost his place in the team again, didn't he? And he came back into it as a substitute in the Scottish Cup final. Let's not forget also the assist in the 3-3 game at Ibrox. That was Bernardo for Ida. Similarly, in the Cup final, Bernardo for Ida. There are signs that he could be a similar type of player Is he a like-for-like replacement? No, he's not. He absolutely is not. And I know that we are interested in a number of other midfield players. There is speculation around Arnie Engels, which seems to be a favourite amongst many of the Celtic news outlets, that he could well be a player we are interested in. And the fee looks to be around the £10 million mark. We're going to have to spend big. I mean, it's not about just having a marquee signing, the old marquee signing or a statement signing as such. What it is, it's about bringing that quality in. And my biggest frustration this pre-season, this transfer window, has just been that the wheels seem to turn at an alarmingly slow rate. And I know, listen, I've heard all the excuses. First of all, it was the Euros. Hard to do business while there's a tournament on. Then we hear that it's hard to do business. Is it? Is it really difficult to do the business? Because if so, maybe you don't have the people in the position to do that business. Maybe that's why you're finding it difficult. I remember when Ange Postecoglou came to the football club and he spoke out about the fact that he was very frustrated around the speed at which we were doing deals. And what we then found is that we started doing deals a wee bit more quickly. We don't have a functional recruitment team. Now, I think, like everybody else, I've seen the WhatsApp note in and around the success of Celtic during the tutelage of Peter Lawwell. I've seen it all. It doesn't surprise me. I've said it before. You know, you say to the football club around disappointments in certain areas, and their attitude is, well, how much have we won in that period? Show us your medals. And that is exactly what we have been met with when we have questioned it. It's what journalists have also been met with when questioning Dermot Desmond. And how many medals have we won? How many successes have we had since I've been involved in the football club? And there's an arrogance. There really is an arrogance attached to that because we could do so much better. We're up against, and by the way, during the tenure of Peter Lawwell as the CEO, our main rivals were liquidated. Let's not forget, you know, it was a free hit season upon season. If Celtic had not won the league, whilst there was not a Rangers in the division, then it would have been catastrophic. I mean, let's be honest about it. There was a period of time where it was a free hit. And in actual fact, during that period, we didn't win enough trebles. And that only started to happen when Brendan Rodgers came to the football club. He normalised the winning of trebles. And we did it 4 times in a row, which is a sensational record. And we have won 8 trebles. It really is a sensational record that we have. And it's a great period of success. And I'm not a spoiled Celtic fan or an entitled Celtic fan. But let's be honest, the transfer window's not been good enough. And you can rack up a list of all the players that we've made money on. And I could give you plenty of others that we've lost money on. We've lost £56 million in players in that same period. In fact, since 2010, £56 million on players who never played 50 games with football for Celtic. Every single one of them could be regarded as a flop. So yes, it's nice to look at the positives, but they can be balanced by what we haven't done in Europe. They can be balanced by the players we haven't produced in the youth academy. And they can be balanced by really poor transfer windows. And we've had quite a few of them, haven't we? There we go. There's the rant, and it lasted 13 minutes. Right, let's have a look through the team. Let us know your thoughts. Get involved. Andy Lee, good morning to you as well. You're commenting on the YouTube. Most of you are commenting on the YouTube channel. If you haven't done so already, get subscribing on there. We're heading towards 30,000 subscribers by the end of the year. And other than Celtic Football Club's official channel, no one else has watched a channel more than Acsom on the platform of YouTube. Celtic's fan media is healthy, it's thriving, and we are delighted to be part of that. We are heading towards 19 million viewers on YouTube, which is incredible. It really is. So thanks every single one of you for getting involved. Here we go. Tomoki, not in the squad. I never even mentioned that, NCB. Tomoki is not in the squad today. Suspect he might be for the off for game time. Well, when you look at the bench, what you do have is you've got Odin, Thiago, Holm. And Odin Holm was a player who was mentioned by Brendan Rodgers during the pre-season. He was mentioned in the same breath as his fellow midfield player, Boston Lawwell. And at that time, Boston Lawwell had been tipped to make a breakthrough into the Celtic first team. He had a great a great loan at Fleetwood, came back, and you thought to yourself, he may well break into the team. Well, no, Brendan Rodgers had other ideas. And he said that the standard was nowhere near good enough and he wanted a lot more. And he name-checked Lawwell and Home. Lawwell's gone, Home's still here. And as you say, he is on the bench in CB and Tomoki Iwata is not. Tomoki Iwata is a player who I actually quite like. I think he's a very good squad player, very reliable, and he's the type of guy who can come on and shore it up if things are getting a bit chaotic in the last half hour of a game and you need to hold on to a lead. I think that's the type of game that's ideal for Tomoki Iwata. Whether or not Japan's most valuable player, which was the title he held when he signed for Celtic, is happy being a bit part player is another matter entirely. And he may be a player that is going to make way for one of these new signings. We've heard all the names that have been linked with Celtic, and the one that continually comes up and looks as though it's coming from credible sources is Arnie Engels. 10 million quid. We need to create a pathway whereby he is going to be either in the starting 11 or on the bench every week, and that might mean that Tomoki Iwata will make way. I did not hear during the presser whether or not he was mentioned as an injury concern. Unless he's injured, says Mantis Toboggan, MD. Haven't heard much about him these last few weeks, not even linked with a move, unlike a few others. Yes, there are many linked to a move out of Celtic Park, aren't there? We've got Mikey Johnson potentially on his way to Sheffield United, even though Burnley are also interested in the player. We've also got Lagerbielke, Herenveen, former team of Georgios Samaras. Spent some time there. So Lagerbielke, but it looks as though it could be a loan deal out the door. We need centre-halves in the door. Nawrocki, not much has been mentioned about him. Are we able to get a deal lined up for him and Lagerbielke, move them on so that we can make way for a centre-half? Do we really need to be doing that, though? Do we really need to be waiting? We've already shipped out, at last count, a dozen first-team players there or thereabouts with first-team experience, and we have, at the last count, brought in 4. So I think we've created quite a bit of space in that first-team squad to be bringing in a centre-half, left-sided preferably, a left-back also, and of course, some of the other players we've been linked with include central midfielders, attacking midfielders, and centre forwards as well, now that there are rumours circling around Kyogo. Today could be pivotal, says Stephen McGonigal. Welcome to the show. Bernardo given a chance to fill big boots. Yes, he absolutely is. And I've just got to say, Jungle Lion, how many breaks do you get a year, mate? That is very, very impressive. But even more impressive than that is the fact that you still tune into Acsom, even when you're in the Costa del Sol. Now, Mantis Toboggan, this is what I was talking about at the beginning of the show here. Bernardo, for me, is more of a defensive midfield player. He might be playing further forward today, but if he's Matt O'Reilly's long-term replacement in that role, we're in big trouble. Let us know in the comment section what your thoughts are, because, as I say, the narrative that was being pushed during that press conference by the player himself is that he is an attacking player. He wants to be scoring more goals. Is that the role that has been set out for him by the football club during the discussions to bring him back on a permanent? Probably. It seemed as though it was being pushed in that interview. And it got me to thinking along the lines of, if and when Matt O'Reilly leaves, and it looks imminent, if we can use that word, then Bernardo would be the first pick to go into the starting berth of the first 11. However, going back to what we were talking about, we need to bring in someone more in the mould of a Matt O'Reilly. Obviously not at this stage of his development because we couldn't afford him. But is Arnie Engels that player? Is he the type of player that can come to Celtic Football Club at the age of 20 for £10 million and develop under a coach like Brendan Rodgers over the next couple of seasons to then start getting the kind of figures that Matt O'Reilly was getting last season? That might be the long-term plan. We don't know because no one really talks to us, do they? As a fan base, we have an absent landlord. We have a CEO who doesn't speak. We don't know what the plan is. We don't know what the aspirations are for Europe. But all I know is that very soon we're going to be playing Rangers. We're going to be playing Rangers, who have been and will be our main title challengers. And that's the big test. And how many new players will we have in the building before that game? Even if we do get them in, though, is it a good idea? Let me know in the comments. Is it a good idea to throw in a player for a game like that, for their debut? Let me know. Let me know some examples from the past. I think Juranovic got thrown in, didn't he? And he did okay. He was out of position as well. But yeah, let me know your thoughts on throwing a new player into the big derby game next week. I'm looking at the team that we've got just now. Look at that defence. Look at the back five. It picks itself. And it picks itself because A, it's the best quality that we have at the football club, but B, there's nobody really challenging. You think about this, right? So you've got Kasper Schmeichel in goals. He's come in, he's 37, he's looked brilliant so far in 3 games. Not really challenged. I know he conceded a goal in the cup against Hibs. It was a good finish, let's be honest. Poor defending, though. Didn't really have much of an opportunity to save that, but we look really assured as a unit with him at the back. I think that he's much better with the ball at his feet. And there was one moment during the game at Easter Road, 70th minute of the game. He plays a ball into Rio Atati. You'll remember that someone tried to sky them around the halfway line, but he was able to stay on his feet. And we created an attack. It was a defence to attack transition based solely on a pass by Kasper Schmeichel. And he seems very confident in doing so. I think he's better in that aspect of his game than previously Joe Hart was. Even though I love Joe and I wish him all the absolute best in his new career as a pundit. So you've got Schmeichel in goals. And let's be honest, Sini Salo, this season, I'm not expecting him to be challenging for the gloves of Kasper Schmeichel. I think what he's going to be doing is gaining an incredible amount of experience on a training pitch, day to day, with a player who's got over 100 international caps and who's won the Premier League in England and the FA Cup, etc. And he's going to learn this season. And the reason I say that is because if he was going to be getting first team games, I would have expected him to be used in the League Cup. And that didn't happen. So you've got Schmeichel in goals because he's the best we've got. Nobody's challenging him. Right back, Alistair Johnston. Similarly, I've said on here before, Tony Ralston, who's on the bench today, is my favourite Celtic player. And that's due to his journey and his attitude and the way that he's applied himself and his commitment. And the fact that no matter who the manager is, he is low maintenance. The mental fortitude to go through 18 months of football without kicking a ball for Celtic. But then when the jersey's thrown at him, he picks it up and he gives his all. He gives 100%. And he puts in the performances. He's not just a trier. But let's be honest, he's not pushing for a first team jersey. He's a good backup. Alistair Johnston will always get that jersey when fit. So he starts, and I don't think this is healthy. This is why I'm pointing it out. Left back, Greg Taylor. We don't even have a left back to challenge him. Let's be honest, right? I mean, last season when Bernabé went over to Brazil to warm a bench over there, Brendan Rodgers was asked a question in the press conference, and he said that Liam Scales can play there. So Liam Scales is a backup left back, apparently, unless we want to bring in one of our younger players who performed so well over in America. So no one is challenging Taylor for his jersey. And then you've got the 2 centre-halves, Carter Vickers and Scales. Right, who's challenging them? Who is Carter Vickers hasn't had a challenge for his first team jersey since he joined the football club. Never mind a partner who's on the same kind of level in terms of ability. He's never had a challenge for his own jersey. And then obviously since Starfelt left the football club, Scales has been the number 1 player in the left side of central defence, and he's got it on merit. But who's challenging him? Is Stephen Welsh seriously challenging Liam Scales for a position? No chance. And you look at that bench, Lagerbielke and Nawrocki aren't even on the bench now. Kobayashi's away. He's away to Portugal. So Scales has no challenge, and neither does the other 4 at the back. So you know what? That is not healthy. We need to get challenging for these jerseys because we need to keep the standards high. And when you go into the Champions League, of which we have 8 games, you want to make a fist of it. As a fan, you want to make a fist of it. You get excited about the draw. And then you're waiting for the ticket package to come out, and it inevitably sells out. And you think to yourself, why? Just to be there, just to be at the party? Or are you going to contribute to what has happened on the Champions League stage? Without a challenge, that defence will become stale. Without a challenge, they'll become stale. So we need to start strengthening, particularly in the number 3 position and the left side of central defence. And I don't think anybody's going to argue with that. But if so, let us know. Here we go. Brown Warrior, always a pleasure to bring you up here. Trusty and move Scales out to the left centre-back role in a back 3. Push Taylor up the park as a wing back for Europe. Scales versus Lazio at Celtic Park proved he's up for it. Covered Taylor big time in that game. So yes, it will be interesting, says Tony Cassidy, to see either. Tony, were you at the recent B team game, and how was it? Because obviously we've just lost another B team player in Daniel Kelly to Millwall, and it would appear that if that is going to be the mainstay of our youth policy and our youth team, and they're going to be developing in the B team with some fleeting performances and appearances in the first team, it's not going to be enough for them at a certain level. Daniel Kelly's away to Millwall. Let us know, Tony. Now, the midfield obviously is O'Reilly-less, and it's a sad day, but at the same time, we need to strengthen. We can't be a football club that takes the money and doesn't strengthen in that position. We've got Callum McGregor, the captain of the football club, who has started, for me, this campaign brilliantly. And he's got in amongst the goals. And, you know, I've said a few times this season, he's going to smash through the 500 game barrier. He's had a tremendous career, one of the most decorated footballers in the history of the football club. And alongside him, you've got Bernardo and Hatate. How will they shape up? Because previously we've had McGregor playing more defensively, and it's been Matt O'Reilly and Hatate in front of them, and it's worked really, really well. And that's the saddest thing, is actually that combination of the three players looked as though it could really develop this season. Hatate's not had his best season for Celtic yet, I don't think. I think this season could be it. And alongside O'Reilly, it looked as though, by the way, Hatate's always going to lose the ball. I don't think we'll ever coach that out of him. He's always going to lose the ball because he always tries risky passes. So he's going to lose the ball. And so I just think we live with that and we shore it up. But I was very excited to see how that trio would develop throughout this season. We're not going to get the opportunity to see it. But what we will have is Bernardo, and we'll look to see where he shapes up today. And I think it will be as an attacking midfielder. He's already set us up for that. Up top, Jamesy Forrest. He's there on merit. He's there on merit, but at the same time, it would appear that Kuhn might have picked up a slight injury as well. Maida will be playing down the left-hand side. There's been a big debate around whether or not he's more effective down the left or through the middle. And of course, as Tony Cassidy said, Ida is back in, and he's back in from the start. And he's up against a team that I think suits him, suits his kind of game. The fact that he loves a bit of a battle, he puts him in mind of the likes of Giakoumakis in that respect, where he would, pick the ball up pretty deep. He's great at shielding it. He's great at holding off the players. He's physical in that respect, and hopefully he's not penalised, because a lot of it's down to the fact he's just stronger than his opposition. Going to keep an eye on that, because Giakoumakis used to pick up loads of bookings, basically for being a stronger player. Let's have a look at that today. Now, on the bench, Sinisalo, as I say, I don't expect him to challenge this season unless Michael is suspended or injured, and hopefully that doesn't happen. We've got Palma on the bench. Palma seems to be lumped in with Yang. Danielle has mentioned that quite a few times in the past, Palma and Yang, but I do think Palma has contributed far more than Yang, but he needs to do it on a consistent basis. Does he have that? Does Palma have the minerals to be a regular starter for Celtic? Because at the moment he's benched, and he's benched for a reason. Kyogo is also on the bench. Lots of speculation around his future at Celtic Park. I called out the Man City interest. I just said, you know what, it was a pitch. It was a pitch that was put out there by the agency, and it will get interest in Kyogo. I do expect Celtic to get bids for Kyogo Furuhashi before the window slams shut, but I don't expect any of them to come from Manchester City. I've said before, Oasis will reform before Man City sign Kyogo, but that's happening on Tuesday, apparently. Yang, we've got Home, as we've already mentioned. Home is a player that in flashes has shown that he has ability. £2.5 million we paid for him, and I think this season we need to see some game time, or else he needs to go out on loan. We've got Tony Ralston, the ever available and ever ready Tony Ralston, alongside Stephen Welsh. And as I say, Francis Turley, I'm delighted to see him still on the bench. What about St Mirren, and how are they going to line up? A quick look at their lineup also will show that Balcombe is in goals, and he starts alongside Yakaviti, Taylor, O'Hara, Ayunga, Gogic, Rooney, Olasanya, Brown, Fraser and Phillips. Rooney coming back, obviously great links to Celtic, has Rooney going right back to Barry Rooney and Bob Rooney, and he is in the starting lineup. Gogic loves to rough it up. Which midfielder goes toe-to-toe with Gogic today? Maybe Bernardo's going to show his physicality, because I think we did see a bit of that. The team lines are up. The game's about to kick off. Let us know your predictions. I'm going to predict today that Celtic will win the game. It will be scrappy, and I think that it's going to be 3-1 to Celtic, and I'll be happy with a 3-1 victory for Celtic. This is the final chance for us to prepare for the big derby. Sean, who we hope to see at half-time and full-time, reckons it will be 2-1 to the Hoops as well. So let us know your predictions and come back at half-time. Hopefully, we'll be talking about a scintillating performance in the first 45 by the champions. Thank you, every single one of you, for joining us on a Celtic State of Mind, and we'll see you at half-time on Acsom.